what it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, cause we're golden.
Okay, so we got June 30th. Terry Crews says, if you are a child of God and you are my brother and sister, I have family of every race, creed, and ideology. We must ensure hashtag Black Lives Matter does not morph into hashtag Black Lives Better. Which to me makes sense, you know. We've seen that happen before in a few different movements, especially the current modern feminist movement. And a few other movements that maybe we should talk about.
Yes, but even going back in history, it's been a trend of when different groups have gone to just become equal, they've taken over, which is, I think, is what he's saying. Is if everyone is truly equal, then be equal. Don't try to overtake, which is what they're fighting against, what they want to. Their ideology is to fight against inequality, and he's afraid it's going to become equal in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the ideas and ideals of the actual like Black Lives Matter movement, as far as like just like asking for like inequality and standing up as like systemic injustice goes. Because I've talked to like some of my like colleagues at work and some like friends that are like African American. They've told me like personal stories, like I guess abuse they've suffered at the hands of police, and like how like they were pretty much targeted just because they were like a black man. So I definitely think those inequalities exist. I think that it's not a bad thing that they're working to move against them and try to fight those.
So the gist is that we agree with the movement, but it just has to be careful, which is exactly what Terry's saying, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what, though? I think it's more, personally, more than just the movement, where I've heard others who are not well-liked have made comments that the black community as a whole needs to hold itself to higher standards also. And point and take, which I don't have the video, but I watched the video today. It was despicable. It was a group of people who jumped and beat another girl who was pregnant, like very pregnant, with her toddler right there. Kicked the toddler, assaulted her like there was no tomorrow. And it was a couple of girls and one guy who did this. And it was all posted on the internet, on like Twitter, I think it was. And the backlash came to the boy who kicked the toddler. And the mother got on, and her comment was not defending him, that he did not intend to kick the child. He wouldn't do that. But it was fine that he beat a pregnant girl and kicked her in the back and everything else and was stomping on her head. That was okay. Just the fact he wouldn't kick a kid. It's like, where's the line? I mean, that's, if you're going to have a higher standard, have a higher standard and a moral code.
There's a huge mental health problem right now. Nobody values anybody else.
No.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to take responsibility for their actions, is the other part of it. I mean, I understand and I agree with equality 100%. But if you want equality, then it needs to be equal. You are held responsible for what you do wrong, just like you want the police to be, and everyone else.
Definitely.
So that's going to bring us to the next tweet. So we got a lot of backlash from that. And a lot of people obviously bringing up the past and how obviously slavery was a factor in their movement and everything. So he says, plain and simple, that he's a human rights activist and not a human wrongs activist. Which basically means he's not going to dwell on the past. He's going to try to move forward and make the future better instead of just dwelling on what happened before. And top comment here, at this point, I have to believe white people are paying you to be this stupid.
A white guy that said that? Oh, no.
King Crystal? No, it's not a white guy. No. And then we got a whole bunch of Terry, what the hell is that even supposed to mean? People just probably aren't connecting the dots. And someone said, don't forget it was a white man who hurt you, just like the cops killing young black men. Someone said, LOL, scrolling through the comments and the only people supporting Terry are white. Someone said, you're a waste of our time. Oh, okay. So let's move on to the next.
See, the funny thing is you read all these comments, and all they want to do is attack him, not engage in an intellectual conversation about why he's saying what he's saying and what he truly means.
Mm-hmm. They'd rather just be offended.
Yeah,
right.
But also, oh, go ahead. Do you have anything else to say? Yeah, they're also just completely like pretty much discounting his points. Like, yeah, like I said, not even wanting to like engage with him and just completely just invalidating what he's saying.
Mm-hmm. That leads right up to the next tweet here. So the next tweet, the next day at 1 a.m. So obviously he's been reading a lot of these replies and comments and stuff. So the next tweet says, intelligent decision making sometimes requires you to forget what you've lost and evaluate the situation as it exists today. This is not the oppression Olympics. And some of the top comments on that is, Terry, no. Why do you keep talking? Someone take his phone away. Somebody said, unfortunately, it seems like the left is handing out trophies for who can play oppressed the most best.
You know, I mean, it's
somebody
just,
said somebody said he hasn't made an intelligent decision on this app yet. Come on, y'all.
You know, and again, it goes back to, I understand what he's saying, and I can't say I disagree. I mean, slavery was bad. It was a horrible time in our history.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry, and I understand there is still racism. There is still inequality. Not as systematic, I don't feel, is what they're saying. Yes, it is there. Don't get me wrong. But everybody cries slavery. I don't know of anyone who is still alive today who was a slave.
In America.
In America. That's a done deal. Maybe, you know, yes, your ancestors were. That was a dark time in our history.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gone. It's been gone for how many hundreds of years now? Like 200 years?
And we're proud that that's gone. It's not like...
Exactly. It's something that's in the history books. Well, I think it's still there. I haven't read one this year.
Yeah,
but,
I'm pretty sure it is.
You know, I understand what he's saying, and everybody seems to want to concentrate on things that's been a dead issue for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm. They just want to make everyone mad about everything.
Right. It's like demanding reparation for slavery. You weren't a slave. Why should you be paid for it?
What do you think that, no, go ahead. You can finish, sorry.
No, I was pretty much done.
So then that goes to the next tweet, which is the same day, but now at 3:14 p.m. What?
Interrupt for 1 second real quick. I do think that in some ways, like African Americans and some minority populations in the U.S. are still oppressed. I don't think it's like obviously not as bad as it used to be, but like if you look at a lot of like poor areas, they're going to be predominantly African American, like the super poor areas. So also has to do with like some people say like over policing. I don't know if I agree with that. I haven't really seen enough statistics, but a lot of them like end up joining like gangs or just have shitty socioeconomic situations, so they end up like committing a higher amount of crimes just to pretty much like stay alive and support themselves. So it's kind of just like a circle of like not enough education, not enough opportunity, and so in those areas that just like keeps on happening and happening.
I don't argue that at all. I also though think it's a double-edged sword where and it's happening more everywhere, but it's also the parents are not taking as active of a role in their kids' education and everything, which is allowing them to go do this stuff. And like I said, it's not just in those communities, don't get me wrong. It's the whole TV parenting generation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just our society now has become like having kids who are now grown up. I saw it while they were in high school and everything. None of the parents of other kids wanted to be involved with their kids. It was, yeah, go whatever, do whatever. And then when they did something wrong, it was not my kid.
Mm-hmm.
Just unfortunately, in those neighborhoods, it is escalating into something bigger.
Yeah.
Akela, I'd like to add something. Yeah, what's up, Akela?
The other thing while Akila is typing, I'd like to point out that I find interesting is they're all bashing Terry Crews and his views in this aspect. But the funny thing is Terry Crews grew up
Yeah, he had
in
a
Michigan, in
horrible.
Flint, Michigan, in gang areas. And it was only the fact that people gave him that kind of a backing in the community that he able to dug himself out.
He had a terrible childhood too. His
Oh,
dad was
he did.
abusive.
Yep. He was the epitome of what they're arguing and saying is wrong and the oppression that black people go through. He lived that. But yet he still has this outlook. They need to respect his opinion considering he did come from that background. He's not just pulling crap out of his butt.
Yeah. He knows some. So then, after getting the backlash on that, trying to clarify himself up, Terry Crews goes on later that same day and he says, "Are all white people bad? No. Are all black people good? No. Knowing that this is reality, I stand on my decision to unite with good people, no matter what their race, creed, or ideology is. Given the number of threats against this decision, I also decide to die on this hill." So to me, I mean, he's saying, is everybody perfect? No. But knowing that that's how it is, I'm going to try to come together with all these good people that I know, and I'm going to try to make the world a better place. And saying that he's going to die on the hill, I mean, he's not going to just change his beliefs just because everyone's getting offended on what he's saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what I read in that tweet.
Yeah. Another thing, as far as like this recent this uprising, or I guess insurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, I don't think it should be like white versus black. Like I don't think it should be like divided like that, because I feel like all that does is like divide everybody further, which is obviously bad. I think it should be good versus bad, or I guess everybody versus like police brutality, and I guess the most recent issue it's been.
I think that's the biggest reason why a lot of people don't support that specific movement. And they aim more towards like an all lives matter movement, because what they're not saying like the Black Lives Matter movement is stupid. They're just trying to make sure that everyone's united in the end, which is what Terry's talking about too.
Exactly. And I mean, knowing the field as far as policing and everything, and having many friends who are police all over the state that I'm in, not all police are bad, and it's, yes, there is police brutality, but it's not as rampant as they try to say. And
Thank you, Akela.
Unfortunately, a lot of the coverage of what happens, like the whole George Floyd thing. Okay, the officer overstepped, and he went too far with what he did. Don't argue that at all, 100%. But what led to that action starting? That was kind of hazed right over. And if you're gonna jump on one aspect, you need to look at the whole situation. That's
for that
like
specific instance?
Well,
right?
For every instance. I mean, I've always been one where when these stories come out, I will hear it, whether I agree with it or not. I don't pass judgment on it, because especially the media, they only release what facts they want to make the story better and get better ratings.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if everyone's mad, they're more likely to watch the news, because everybody likes drama. And then they get more money, and we get pissed. We start doing dumb shit, and then they report on it, and they get more money.
Oh, yeah.
Mainstream media doesn't profit off of like good things happening, or profit off of making everybody like happy and like.
Exactly. It's about riling people up and getting the story the fastest, whether it's right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of the most famous things I ever, or most accurate things I ever heard was the media can print whatever they want, and they can just retract it later on page 10
Mm-hmm.
in a blurb. Nobody's ever going to know the retraction was there. They just remember that headline, whether it was right or wrong.
So then we got the next tweet, which was 2 days later, and Terry Crews used a hashtag I've never seen before, hashtag all Black Lives Matter, and he said 9 black children killed by violence in Chicago since June 20th, 2020. And he's basically just kind of pointing out a little bit of how hypocritical the group is, because they're so specified that it's only like black people that are killed by police officers.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't care about any other amount of violence, even though
Yeah,
I don't know
black
what
crime
percentage,
is not
but
an issue for the organization. They don't. It's not discussed. It's not cared about.
yeah, but in real life it is. It's a big issue.
Exactly.
I have seen some like marches and protests specifically regarding like gun violence and violence within Chicago from like the Black Lives Matter movement. I definitely know I've seen a few news stories of that.
That would
See,
be
and
good.
that's
The
the
news
other
doesn't
thing
show any of
is-
that though.
Yeah, but
They
I
only-
definitely have seen some like protests and gatherings
That's
for
good, though.
specifically like violence within like inner cities and stuff like that. So I think that like the issue is people just like don't see it happening. Obviously, it's not as widespread as what you see with like police brutality, but they definitely do have like protests on that. And I think that it's kind of a different issue. I feel like it's more so like somewhat a cultural or like I said, like economic issue, because a lot of those areas like gangs are running pretty rampant, and like that's kind of the culture and life for a lot of people within that area, whether it be through like economic problems or like they don't have like a family, so they turn to the gang for protection or for family and way of life, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you actually do I've read and seen interviews with, I forgot the gentleman's name. He was actually the person who was the founder of the Crips. And like he said, the gangs originally started, and that's what it was a place of community, so they had a family. But like he has also said, because I believe he's still alive, but he will never get out of jail. He's though written and said he's denounced the gangs, and he said, but it quickly changed from what it was intended to be and what it is now. And he said he regrets every single day starting the Crips.
I believe it.
Because of it. So the intent initially was right, but again, it was morphed into something that wasn't.
As far as like the all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter, I don't think that Black Lives Matter is like exclusionary, or like I don't think it's trying to say that like, oh, like only Black Lives Matter, Black lives are better. I think it's just trying to say like Black Lives Matter, because I think some people don't really realize that and kind of brush over like the problems that a lot of like African Americans face in today's world, and especially in the U.S. I saw a pretty interesting analogy about say like your neighbor's house is on fire and you say, oh, okay, well, all houses matter. I think that was kind of interesting. And someone like trying to say that like all houses are equally important, but your house isn't the one that's on fire.
I get what you're saying, and I agree. I mean, I don't think the Black Lives Matter movement as a whole and what it initially is supposed to represent, there's anything wrong with. I think what has made it an issue with so many people also is the fact of how many people have used it and hid behind it to create acts of racism towards white people, Asian people, or anybody else.
And violence.
And violence.
Yeah.
Like there was the one, and I have seen this article a couple of times because it keeps popping up, of an 18-year-old who attacked a manager in Macy's in Chicago, claiming he called him the N-word, and it was all put on social media of him jumping him and beating him and everything. And it all came out. The guy never said anything to him. He asked if he could help him. And he just used that as a reason to turn around and beat him because it got views on, I think it was Twitter or something. And he's now facing felony charges, but in his mugshot, he's laughing away.
Yeah.
It's things like that. That gives the actions of these people hiding behind the Black Lives Matter movement give it a negative undertone automatically.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good idea, but
And also, I have to say that a lot of these entertainers nowadays that are out there who are like opposite of Terry Crews don't help. There was, I can't remember the rapper's name, who made a comment on one of his posts about all these crackers. Well, you don't.
Nick Cannon, or
Oh,
no,
it was
actually
no. This one was
that's a
like,
tweet that I gotta pull up too.
yeah, no, it wasn't even him. It was either one of the new gangster rappers. I don't remember his name because never heard any of his music. But I'm like, if you want equality and racism gone, it goes both ways.
I don't know if he tweeted it, but he probably didn't tweet it.
That or he took it down already.
No, it was
like
something totally different. He was saying how white people are like one gene away from apes or some or animals or some crazy shit. Tell me that's not racist.
Oh yeah.
I can't find it, but
See, I mean, and it's what I'm saying. It's comments like that that these people are putting out there because it ups their fan base with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything else. But it's racist against other people.
In theory, it's a good movement, but a lot of people are using it incorrectly and misunderstanding the whole point of it.
And using it to up their fame and renown or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
then we go
just basically piggybacking.
Yeah. And then we go to the next tweet, which is a couple days later, and Terry Crews said, "If I'm truly your equal, I can discuss my concerns with you, but if I'm not, all my concerns are perceived as threats." Which is kind of like the same theme as he's been going on. He's like, if we're actually equal, then I can say stuff and you can appreciate what my opinions are. And top comment, I really love this top comment. "Our culture has prioritized hearing what people want to hear and not uncomfortable truths."
See, I respect that.
Because that's definitely true.
Yes, it is.
And then we're going to take a quick couple minutes here and we're going to just watch the Terry Crews and Don Lemon interview on CNN. And we're going to have a little chat about it afterwards. So we're going to start here from the 29-second mark.
Me now. Terry, man, you stepped in it. You say that you're willing you say you're willing to die on this hill. You've taken a lot of heat for this. Explain what you were thinking and why it's so important that you die on this hill.
Well, again, I wanted to bring up the fact that, there are some very, very, militant type forces in Black Lives Matter. And what I was issuing was a warning. It's one of those things where I've been a part of different groups, I've been a part of different things, and you see how extremes can really can go far and can go wild. And then when you issue a warning, and when a warning is seen as detrimental to the movement, how can you ever have checks and balances? In the 60s and 70s, airplanes went down all the time. And the reason they found out why they did was because the pilots could never be questioned. And when you have the leaders of the Black Lives Movement who are now talking about, if we don't get our demands, we're going to burn it down. Other Black people who are talking about working with other whites and other races, they're being viewed as sellouts or called Uncle Toms. You start to understand that you are now, being controlled. You're not being treated as loved. You're actually being controlled. Someone wants to control the narrative. And I viewed it as a very, very dangerous self-righteousness that was developing that really viewed themselves as better. It was almost a supremacist move.
So let me jump in, Terry.
They viewed that. their Black lives mattered a lot more than mine.
Okay, so let me jump in here. There's a lot that you said. You think if Black Lives Matter is, you said you think it's an extreme movement? Because it's now part of the...
No, this is the thing. It's a great mantra. It's a true mantra. Black lives do matter. But when you're talking about an organization, you're talking about the leaders. You're talking about the people who are responsible for putting these things together.
I got you. So let me, but
different thing.
Terry, you realize that even during the civil rights movement that Dr. King was seen as extreme. That movement was seen as extreme. To people who don't want to make change, movements are seen as extreme. You can paint them easily as an extreme when they are not.
This is very true. But also, when you're talking about MLK, you're talking about Nelson Mandela, and even Malcolm X, they all realized that you had to have a non-racial component to these kind of movements, or there will be resentment. There will be get back. There will be, one of these people will tend to, listen, I don't want to move from one oppressor to the next. And one thing is really
who's the next oppressor? Who's the next oppressor?
Oh, when I describe this, when you look in the city of Chicago, there are 9 children who died by gun violence, by black on black gun violence, from June 20th all the way to today. And you're talking about, even with the Atlanta child murders, there were 28 kids who died in 2 years. You're talking about a month, and you have 9 black kids, and the Black Lives Matter movement has said nothing about this.
What does that have to do with equality, though, Terry? I don't understand what that has to do with equality, because listen, there's crime. There are people in those communities those people aren't just being nonchalant about gun violence. I lived in Chicago. There are many people who are working in those communities to try to get rid of the gun violence. The gun culture in this country is prevalent, but I don't understand what that has to do with a movement that's for equality for black people. It's not mutually exclusive that if you care about equality for black people, that somehow you're going to stop random violence or, unfortunately, kids from being shot. It just seems like apples and oranges.
You know, it's not that way. You know, this is the thing, Don. You know, black people need to hold other black people accountable. I said this the same thing. This is the Black America's version of the Me Too movement. If anything is going to change, we ourselves need to look at our own communities and look at each other and say, this thing cannot go down. And this is the thing, too. There are a lot of great, great people there who are held hostage, by people who literally are running these neighborhoods with violence and then claiming that Black Lives Matter. When you look at the parents of these little kids who are saying, hey, man, why aren't they speaking up for me, too? And this is what I'm saying. When I look at this whole thing about, you know, it's about who is controlling the narrative. It's got to be all Black Lives Matter. And what's happened is that because I even challenged it, because I even questioned and warned people,
Terry,
I became sick. Like if I told you to wear a mask,
but Terry,
they want to kick you out.
You're a high-profile person. You're writing things out there. You know you're going to get backlash. You know people are going to respond to what you're saying on Twitter. So I don't think you should be surprised by that. I have a skin as tough as an armadillo because of what I do, and I think maybe you should adapt that. But here's what I have to say. The Black Lives Matter movement was started because it was talking about police brutality. If you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence in communities, including, black communities, then start that movement with that name. But that's not what Black Lives Matter is about. It's not an all-encompassing. So if you're talking about, if someone started a movement that said, cancer matters, and then someone comes in and said, why aren't you talking about HIV? It's not the same thing. We're talking about cancer. So the Black Lives Matter movement is about police brutality and injustice in that manner, not about what's happening in black neighborhoods. There are people who are working on that issue, and if you want to start that issue, why don't you start it? Do you understand what I'm saying?
But when you look at the organization, police brutality is not the only thing they're talking about.
I know that, but I agree,
I'll-
but that's not what the Black Lives Matter movement is about, Terry. Black Lives Matter is about police brutality and about criminal justice. It's not about what happens in communities when it comes to crime, black on black crime. People who live near each other, black people, kill each other. Same as whites. 80-some% of white people are killed by white people because of proximity.
Very true.
It's the same thing with black people.
But
That
again,
happens in every single neighborhood. But that doesn't, again, I'm not saying that's not important that those kids died, but it's a different movement.
Listen, I understand what you're saying. I totally understand. It is about police brutality. That should never be accepted.
Yeah.
I am not saying that that's not it, but there's more there.
Okay.
And when I look at, if they have more on their agenda, we need to ask them about what else is on that agenda other than police brutality. And that's all I'm doing. Questioning, warning, watching. And if that bothers you, now that bothers me. Because if I can't warn you, we are equal. If we're equal, I should be able to say something as equal.
I gotta go. We'll see you. Terry, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
If my man was wearing...
So there's that. That was Damn it, Don, let him talk.
I know.
Like Terry's a smart guy. He had something like that planned to answer, and he's clearly talking and answering it, and Don's just trying to
He's talking over
he's trying to narrow it down to this specific narrative.
Yep. And just shut him down, because again, that's what the majority of the people are doing, is shutting Terry Crews down and not wanting to hear what he has to say.
Even though he has legitimate merit in what he's saying.
He does. And now my other thing is, okay, so Don Lemon just clarified that the Black Lives Movement doesn't have to do with equality, does not have to do with, all it has to do with is police brutality.
Only towards black people.
Only towards black people. All right, so inequality in housing and education, none of that should be a factor, according to Don Lemon. But yet the numbers also back up the fact that there are more white people killed by, unarmed white people actually even, killed by police than black people, but yet there's something like, I forgot how many 100% times more violent crime committed by black people. That's a smaller percentage.
For the unarmed white people, I think it was 3-to-1 for unarmed white people being killed as opposed to unarmed black people.
Right. But
does that represent like the overall population though, or the?
That's nationwide statistics.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the population of white people to black people in the U.S.?
Population of white people to black people it's approximately 48% white people with about 30% black.
Oh, that was like 10 or 15% black to.
No, it's something like that. It's like, I want to say it's around 15 to 20% black males compared to 40-something%. But it's 48% of violent crime is committed by black males.
And it's not because of the color of their skin, it's because of what they're being indoctrinated into.
Right.
You know, if you don't join our gang, then we're just gonna shoot at your house.
Well,
it's not safe.
That, and it's also, it doesn't help, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I'm not about censorship, but what all these new rappers and everything are preaching and doing, and also the sports figures
and movies
games
too,
But
songs.
like I've always been a firm believer. Like, you look at these people in the NFL, like Michael Vick and Hernandez and all them. If you commit a crime, a violent crime, whether it's dog fighting or whatever, why are you still paid $20 million to play a game? I'm sorry, it should be in a contract. You should have, whether you're an athlete or not, I don't care how popular you are, there should be a morality clause in your contract that the second you start doing this, all the videos that come out from elevators of guys beating their wives and everything else. No, it should be a done deal. Your contract is, you just null and voided your contract.
Yeah, because you
make them live to a higher standard. They're supposed to be role models for kids.
Yep, that's exactly what I was just gonna say.
Yep.
You have people looking up to them, and then you really want your son or daughter looking up to someone that ends up beating their significant other.
Exactly.
That's
Well, it's
not...
like you look at Michael Vick, and it might not be people, but okay, he started an underground dogfighting ring from his house, got caught, went to jail, got out, picked his contract up where it left off, and then got caught again.
Yeah.
But he still is playing. To me, that right there is the NFL's problem.
Okay, we gotta try to go a little bit faster with some of these. So the next thing we got, New York Post posted, bus driver from France. I think he was 50 years old. This man right here he refused to let people on his bus that were not wearing masks. In France, it is the law. You have to be wearing masks in order to use public transportation, and they beat him to the point of being brain dead. So.
You see, and this is another thing. I understand the frustration about it, but it's the law. He is doing what he is supposed to. You can't hold him. He can't be held responsible for doing what he's supposed to.
He didn't make
the
law.
It's not like he didn't make the law, and it's not like it's a law that is segregating anybody or unjust.
Not only that, I mean, it makes sense. You're on a bus. Everyone's breathing the same air.
Right.
You should try to protect each other. I mean, he's just looking out for himself too.
And that, and
he wants
also,
to be safe.
Whether or not you agree with it or anything, it's still, the coronavirus is still a new thing. They're still learning about it every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you take the precautions until you learn more.
And yeah, even like people are saying now, like even though the death tolls are dropping, we don't really know what the coronavirus does to you. Even if you live, like, it could have like long-term like immune system like compromisation, or it could have like compromise your lungs and mess that up pretty good.
Recently that they believe it has long-term effects on your heart.
Yeah. So they really have like no idea what they're dealing with, like,
and they're not
going to
know. They're not going to go for a long time. I mean, there could be things that come up 20 years from now from it.
Next topic that we got is going to be a bunch of data sets for COVID-19 cases and a little bit more information on that stuff. So the United States just went over 3 million cases. I think they're up to 3.48 million, almost 3.5. And obviously the media is going to push this to make everybody more scared about everything and goop everybody up still. So we're just going to go over a couple data sets, and they're obviously blaming Trump for it because, you know, obviously Trump can control a pathogen.
I saw that oh, go ahead.
So the first data set, this is just new confirmed cases. This is rolling average, so it's not total. This is like per week, the amount of cases that are coming through. So obviously you see it started coming down, and then we started reopening stuff, and it went up a little bit. Obviously this is partially due to some states are being completely stupid. Like Florida had a party with like 2,000 people attending at somewhere near this range. And plus you have all these protests. And obviously if stuff's opening up more, you're going to have more people in contact with each other anyways. So obviously it is going to go up a little bit. And that brings us to the next point here. Oh, wait a minute. I think I have these in the wrong order.
Yeah, I saw that huge line going up at the very top, and I was like, please don't be the U.S.
That was the U.S.
Yeah.
And then death rates of being confirmed COVID-19, which means that they were tested positive. So one thing to note for this is that some of these other countries have not produced nearly enough test kits. I can pull up the tests right after I'm done talking about this. Some of these other states have not produced nearly enough tests to be close to this, just because of the fact that they haven't produced the tests. So people aren't positive, so obviously they can't totally say that they died from COVID-19, even though that's what they died from. But even this, the death rate has been going down, even though we just saw the amount of cases has been going up. And this is just confirmed. This is also rolling average, so this is the amount of deaths per maybe a month or days. I don't know. I think it's per
At least
month.
Brazil
for the
is
numbers.
nice and steady.
Brazil. Where's Brazil?
The U.S. doesn't know what the fuck they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. They
Yeah.
the U.S. can't make up their mind. Brazil, though, knows right where they want to be.
Yeah,
They're just
Brazil's like, we're
holding
having a
steady.
comfortable number of people
That's right.
dying.
We're
good with this.
comfortable here.
Yeah.
So just like what I was saying. So this is the amount of tests for this is 7-day rolling average, but let's do cumulative. So this is the amount of tests total that countries have been producing using. I think it's just using. Yeah, this is the amount of tests that have been given. So obviously, if we're producing way more tests than all of these other countries, we're going to be having way more confirmed cases than other countries. There's something else. Oh, Russia. I don't know how accurate Russia is, but that's probably why it's
And it also
up.
goes down to locality also.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going to
Obviously,
get
yeah.
more tests in cities than in other places.
And you're going to have more cases in cities, too.
Right.
Just like New York City earlier. Then that brings us to the CIA here. This is
Here we go. Now we're
death
on
rate
butter.
per country. So
Is
a lot
this
of people
from
have been.
coronavirus or
This
from
is
the CIA?
only from. This is.
No, man, these are rookie numbers. CIA would be at like 500 at least.
I was gonna say they do pay.
Oh.
Fucking want to talk about a mass illness? Talk about the CIA.
Oh shit! I think my link is broken. This is this isn't coronavirus. Damn it! My original link was coronavirus. Okay, then we have fatality rate, which is fatality based on how many like per cases. So like, if you're tested positive, you have this % chance of dying. You can see a lot of guys are starting to level out, which is very good because they're starting to know how to deal with it. And so let's start going down the list. So you got France, just kind of meh. United Kingdom's kind of flat. Mexico's kind of flat. Canada's kind of flat. Algeria dropping down pretty good. Germany dropping down pretty good. And then you got the United States dropping down pretty good. So everyone's saying how the United States isn't treating this seriously and they're not working effectively to counter the coronavirus, but you can clearly see that they've been doing a pretty
Then you look
decent job.
Then you look down here at Chile. Chile went down, then they wait, we can get rid of some people.
Oh boy, let's not
It's
start
a
more
population
jokes.
controller.
Oh boy.
Chile was...
Can I point something out too? You know what's on none of these charts? China.
I
You
can
don't see
probably
China
add China.
anywhere.
Let's see if we can add China.
Oh wow, Chile fucking.
See?
Here's China.
Africa.
Okay, but y'all gotta understand though, China's not gonna go out here telling everybody their numbers. That's why there's a flat line.
Why are they
spikes
so
right up?
So this is what happened. Right here they told them a number. Right here they told them a number. And then they didn't tell them shit. And then right here they told them a number. And then they didn't tell them shit.
They're like, fuck, we gotta come up with something. They're asking the international community's like.
And they went, all right, we're done.
Okay, so we have the Frederick Douglass statue in Rochester, New York was pushed over by some protesters. For those of you that don't know, he was a black man, he was a slave, and he fought very hard for abolition and a lot of different, not political, civil rights stuff. So they just pushed his thing over. Somehow, I have no idea, they carried it all the way to the fence, or dragged it all the way to the edge of the fence line. I don't know how the heck they did that. So you got, meanwhile, statue was ripped off the base. Yeah. Oh, it was also on the anniversary of one of his most famous speeches delivered in 1852. So let's just do a quick, before we start talking about him, let's just do a quick Wikipedia search here of Frederick Douglass, just to see what kind of person he was. Okay. So Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey was his original name. He was an American social reformer, abolitionist, orator, writer, and statesman. After escaping from slavery in Maryland, he became a national leader of the abolitionist movement in Massachusetts and New York, gaining note for his oratory.
Yes, oratory.
The hell's that? Like your talking ability?
Yes, no, his like speeches.
Okay. And incisive anti-slavery writings. Accordingly, he was described by abolitionists in his time as a living counterexample to slaveholders' arguments that slaves lacked the intellectual capacity to function as independent American citizens. Likewise, Northerners at the time found it hard to believe that such a great orator had once been a slave. So you got this man who was a past slave that is so damn good at talking that everyone's listening to him, and he's fighting for everybody's civil rights, and then they're gonna go and take down a statue.
What was the reason?
They didn't give a reason. It wasn't the town. It was protesters. It was
Yeah, but like, is there anything on social media talking about why?
Oh, I might be able to find some.
Yeah, I saw the comments and even was like,
I mean, to me, it just seems like just one more thing that the protesters just wanted to destroy. More than likely, they didn't even know who it was, what it was about.
mm-hmm.
That's like one of my other issues with all these protesters is all the riots and destruction that they're doing. Everybody says, "Oh, well, it's okay. It's their frustration." Well, if your frustration is with police brutality, why are you taking that out on your community in the stores and everything, which is causing the police to become more aggressive because you're being more aggressive?
Okay, so it was torn from the pedestal and dragged 50 feet away onto the same site that he and Harriet Tubman helped former slaves escape from. And let's keep reading here. You guys can keep talking. No arrests have been made. The city said that they're going to replace the monument quickly.
It looks to me like that wasn't just pushed over. It looks like they hooked up a tow chain and ripped it out.
Yeah, that's cemented in and everything. That's
and
they
lag
yanked
bolts.
that thing out of there. I'm not finding anything for why. The police don't even know why. They're still investigating it, and I hope they find out who did it. Because under Trump's new law, I mean, that's gonna be 10 years in jail.
Yeah, they don't really have any idea who did it. I'm pretty sure. What it
No,
says,
they don't.
right?
Under
So
Trump's new law, but under the Bail Reform Act, they'll just get let out.
You're right. You're right. But it's a federal crime, though, so it might be different. It might override.
Yeah. If it's under federal, if it's considered a federal monument and everything, then it would fall under federal jurisdiction.
Regardless of who knocked it over, it's freaking stupid because the man was a great man.
It is.
So next thing, we got 400% surge of NYPD officers are either quitting or retiring early in what's known as the blue flu that's been taking over the country, because cops are kind of sick of what's been going on. And the NYPD has started limiting the number of people that can retire.
Yep. You gotta love it.
The cops have, like, I guess, I don't know, the right, but, like, cops should definitely be allowed to, I don't know, allowed. I can definitely see why cops are doing that. Like, if people aren't going to back them with their own DAs and their own mayors, their own police chiefs, people aren't going to back them and allow them to do their job, then I can definitely see why, like, they shouldn't be afraid to enforce the law. Yeah, like, they shouldn't have to worry about, like, okay, well, like, if I do this, if I enforce this law, am I going to be, like, put on spotlight and fucking blasted and get, like, death and, like...
It's happening all the time, man.
To do their job. Yeah.
People jump to conclusions on everything a cop does, you know?
And everybody thinks that they know how to do the job better.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. And like in this case with NYPD, the other part of that is de Blasio, the New York City mayor, just defunded the NYPD by the sum of $1 billion.
That's a lot of money.
And
They have
he
a
did away
$6
with
billion budget.
And they did away with the anti-crime unit, which like actively like specifically goes for like the higher crime areas to help protect
felony and felony only arrests and whatnot. They don't.
Basically, they have more training,
minimal.
so they can deal with that better. Is the biggest point of that, and maybe some better weaponry, or better, less than lethal stuff.
Yeah. One thing that's kind of interesting with like all like the defunding of police and all that is that if you defund the police, how do you expect them to have a higher level of training? I was watching a guy on YouTube, pretty popular. He's not like super like he's not like an expert in this field. He definitely knows what he's talking about. A donut operator. I assume everybody here has heard of him.
I think so.
So he was talking about how if police don't have like a lot of trainings, like let's say like hand-to-hand combat, if police officers aren't confident in their abilities hand-to-hand combat, they're going to be a lot more prone to going for their gun because they aren't going to think like, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to like take this guy out by like throwing him to the ground.
Keep distance.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
And also, if they're not trained in like hand-to-hand combat, the other thing is when they do go to hand-to-hand combat, there's going to be a higher likelihood of them injuring someone or causing a death because they don't know what they're doing.
On top of that too, you know what police funding goes towards? Less lethal items, tasers, beanbag guns. Like, how do they think cops are going to be able to afford that if they're just taking all the money away?
You want to know something else?
And training.
I found out about. I got into this because of some friends of mine who are with the fire department. The other thing that funding goes towards is Narcan.
That's a big one.
A lot of money goes to Narcan, and these police officers who are the ones first on the scene are the ones who administer the Narcan before the ambulance ever gets there. So most of these people who are saved from ODing are by the police.
I follow one of the companies that make that. One of the companies that make that Narcase. They're very pro cop. They actually started that for officers that like mishandled substances or were accidentally exposed to various substances.
But it's like things like that where you want these police, and I understand the purpose of it. I don't totally agree with it in certain aspects and think it should be changed in how it's dealt with. But I mean, I know here, and I've talked to multiple officers, that there's such an increase in ODs in my area that they're at some houses 3-4 times a week for ODs. And the people know they're just going to get hit with Narcan, they're going to be fine, and they're going to go shoot up again the next day. Because as soon as it becomes medical, they're not charged with anything. They can't be. It's under HIPAA law.
Yep. So that's going to move us on to the next thing. So a little while ago, there was an Oregon State police officer that he was at like a protest or something, and somebody came up to him, started talking to him, and he made the okay hand sign, you know, like this thing, okay, like yo, okay, that's okay. And apparently that's a racist hand gesture. And the guy that he was talking to gave him a pat on the back. So obviously he's patting him on the back because he's racist, right?
Pretty sure that started by like a Reddit user or something like that, just trying to fuck with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two Chaz, two chain. Two Chaz. I guess two Chaz. 4chan, that's what it is. 4chan. It's trolling people. So they're the same ones that made the Pepe frog into a racist symbol. So, if y'all really think okay means white power, I mean, come on, guys. Come on.
If it gives people something to be irate about, they'll believe anything.
And you got the top comment from a human right environment, humans right environment Democrat, my kids, my dog, and life are the things that are important to me. Not human rights, it's humans' right. But she says, I hope he will be banned from law enforcement, from law and enforcement for life, sorry. For a hand gesture. For saying okay.
Yeah, that's dumb. I don't understand people are getting upset about that. It's like a non-issue.
Moving on to our next thing. Okay, yeah, this is the picture. So this dude, he's got, I don't know what his shirt says. Black something matter. I don't think it says lives, though.
Which one?
Looks like a B.
Yeah, it doesn't say lives.
Black bikes, maybe. Anywho, whatever he says, obviously he was like talking to the cop, and the cop said okay, and he pats him on the shoulder. So people took that as racist. I don't know why. To me, it seems like he was saying like good job or something, and the cop was just like, yo, whatever. Going on to the next thing, we got Oprah.
The other thing, real quick before you go on, I want to point out about that picture is the officer is wearing a mask. Now, from my perspective, I know when I'm out, I can barely hear what people are saying half the time, like especially in a crowded area. So it doesn't surprise me if he was saying, okay.
Even when it's just two people, it's hard to hear with a mask.
Right.
Now, next thing here, we got Oprah with the double white power sign.
Oh, God.
Goddamn white supremacists.
Does that mean Oprah's a white supremacist now, right, guys?
See, I knew Oprah was secretly behind.
God damn it! Do we have to cancel Oprah now?
Yeah, now we gotta cancel Oprah.
So
now we got.
Hashtag.
And then on top of that, we got Infinity Ward, which is the makers of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, have removed the OK gesture from the game. So apparently in the game, you used to be able to go OK, and now you can't.
Please stay psych.
Guys, started a troll. It's a troll. It's not real. Come on, guys.
And the funny thing is, these trolls do it because of people like this.
Like, that 4chan account, they started that account to see how stupid people are and to make sure that to prove that people get offended instead of fact check stuff. That's what he started that account for.
Oh, yeah.
And it works. I mean, people are banning the OK hand sign. Come on, guys.
Hey, you know what that means? Hashtag end American Sign Language.
Oh, yeah, isn't it? That's a letter in
Yeah.
ALS. Or ASL.
So I
ASL.
guess now we have to protest deaf people.
Yes. Alright, so in closing, we just got a few TikTok videos. So first one, this isn't any cops. This is just something I thought you all might like. This is
What's up, TikTok?
This man
Me and
feeds
Tillman
his
are gonna
tortoise.
go feed Ike this cactus pad and give him a nice wash. I hope you guys enjoy.
And then we'll get into some cop stuff. This man literally has a tortoise in his backyard. That's goals.
I want a tortoise.
The tortoise would live longer than you.
Wanna wash, buddy?
Glad he's gonna live.
Like,
Never mind.
in the tortoise's mind, you would be his pet.
That's adorable. I love that.
There you go,
Oh, just have to die with that video too.
Yeah.
Does that feel good?
There you go, buddy. There you go, buddy.
Looks like a happy
Evening
boy.
started.
Pet it on the face.
Oh, nice.
Okay, happy boy.
I'll be honest, I was
See you
waiting
later,
for
buddy.
Edward to take a chunk out of his hand.
Dude, I saw a picture on Instagram of a dude who got his finger bit off by a snapping turtle. It was like a clean cut at the base of his finger. It was
Snapping
wild.
turtles
yeah.
do not mess around.
No, they don't.
So,
That's pretty crazy.
this is a perfect example of what a good officer would do in an event where they're overpowered by someone that's resisting. So he's trying to control his back with his knee. He's not trying to choke him. So these guys, the cops are saying, help us out, man. He's fighting. He's resisting. We can't hold him down.
The sooner we cuff him, the sooner we can get him up. Stay still. Hey, unlock this door. Get him. Stay still. Hey, don't do all that resistance, bro. Chill out. Just chill out, man. They gonna put the handcuffs on you. Don't do all the resistance. They go the handcuffs right there. Get the handcuffs right there. We can't get that on. Yeah, you don't want to give us his arm, man. Hey, give me your arm, bro. Give me your, hey, say, home. Give me your arm, bro. Give me your arm, man. Look, man, record this. I'm gonna get his arm so they won't hurt him. Record this. I'm gonna get his arm. Look, I'm gonna get his arm. We got a knife on. Do we got a knife on? We haven't found him. All right, come on, give me your arm, bro. I just don't want you to get hurt. I just don't want you to get hurt.
So that's a perfect example of, you know.
It is, and you want to point
And
something
those are
out
good
about
citizens
that video
too.
Is he's lucky he didn't get shot, because if you listen to him, they
He
had
had a
him like
knife.
that because he had a knife.
Yeah. And these guys recording, you know, that's exactly what you should be doing. You know, it's one thing to record and everything, but actually helping out. You know, officer, you guys need help, and he's like, yeah, help us out, and they go help him out,
Yeah.
and you can see. I mean, they got the guy in custody. So there's one thing. Then we got two like happy stories.
10-4, they're approaching me in the
Is this the
driveway.
man that met the legend himself, the fella?
Hey, what's going on with the baby? Okay, calm down. Let me see the baby. Hold on, let me see. Okay, hold on. Let me see the baby.
Please.
Hold on.
Oh, please. Where's the emergency?
Hold on. Let me see the baby. He's still blinking. He's blinking. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Yes, there you go. Okay. He's crying. Okay. He's crying. Hey, it's okay. He's crying. He's crying. He's okay. He's crying. David 10, baby's crying. Go on, You okay? Okay. 10-4.
My initial reaction: damn, that cop is calm. And two,
I know.
why do they not teach parents CPR? That should be mandatory.
Teach you CPR? Teach parents, did you say CPR?
Oh yeah.
For babies, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I see.
It should be mandatory just for the fact of when you have a baby, both parents have to change the baby's diaper before you're allowed to leave the hospital with the baby. Okay, well, that's great. They know how to change the diaper, but teach them CPR at the same time. Make them
Yeah, it's a very valuable lesson.
I want to add something onto that. They, my sophomore year of high school, they required us to learn CPR. I have my certification, though it expires at the end of this year, which means I need to get it renewed. But
yeah, CPR certs are great.
Oh yeah.
And they teach us how
they
teach us how to treat CPR for elderly, for adults, and for infants. So.
And our last clip is going to be an officer seeing a woman on the side of the road.
How you doing, ma'am? Where are you trying to get to? You want to ride? Come on.
I said, today's my daughter's birthday. She turned 1.
Oh, really?
And I want to give her a cake. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, come here. I'll give you my credit card. Go give her a birthday cake. With a number 1 candle. Actually, we got a little surprise, so just give me a second. Thank you. Hi, how are you? Can I give you a hug? Hi, how are you? Oh, big hugs. Hi, Fiona, it's your birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Yay, got blow real hard.
That was it. I just think that's super sweet, and like a lot of the good stuff like that doesn't get shared all the time.
Okay, I liked that one. That was cute.
People don't share this kind of stuff because the officers don't do this stuff for recognition. This one, he actually didn't. No one said anything about this. His supervisor saw this, his body cam when he was reviewing it, and decided to share it to their local media. Like I think it was like a year ago, but still, same concept.
Oh yeah.
And that's our last clip of today. Thank you for watching. Welcome to the Ice Cube. Hope you catch us next time.